All right. It is Tuesday, July 14th, the Mount Greylock Regional Education Subcommittee meeting. It is 2:33 p.m. Per Governor Baker's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, MGLC 38, Section 20, the public will not be allowed to physically access the school committee meeting, but you can make public comments. If you would like to speak, please put your name in the chat and I will call you. Also, if at any time during the meeting you would like to make a comment, please feel free to speak up, raise your hand virtually, put something in the chat, and I will be monitoring that. So I will take the public comments in alphabetical order, which is also the order in which people signed up. So the first will be from Amy.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Amy.
I can't hear you, Amy.
Oh, you can't hear me at all? Can
Amy,
anybody else hear me?
Hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear. Okay, can you hear
That's
me?
on my computer then, sorry.
Okay, all right. Good afternoon. My name is Amy Perry Mercier. I'm the parent of 3 children in Lanesboro Elementary School. I'm also a practicing attorney. Further, I am vice chair of the Special Education Parents Advisory Council. And I am reaffirming the letter and statements made to the school committee last week by members of the PAC. I did want to inform this subcommittee that on the 9th of July, DESE released guidance which reiterated what I said to the school committee regarding the status of the law and requirements on the district as it relates to children who receive special education services. The PAC has placed the memorandum in the Dropbox folder for your convenience so that you can read it. In short, DESE reiterates that the school district must provide a free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment consistent with the need to protect the health and safety of students with disabilities and those individuals in providing education, specialized instruction, and related services to those students. Students with disabilities, especially those in preschool and those with significant and complex needs, need to be prioritized for receiving in-person instruction. The students are identified as those with high needs as found in the IEP process. For example, those in substantially separate classrooms, those students who cannot engage in remote learning due to their disability and related needs, students who use aided and augmentative communication, those who are homeless, those in foster care or congregate care, and English language learners. Again, I would point out that there is a high of students with complex needs who have comorbidities that place them at higher risk for ill effects from contracting COVID-19. Even if schools are operating in hybrid or remote, children with complex disabilities should still be considered for full-time in-person instruction. If the school is in remote learning mode, an instruction and services model must be utilized. Further, those students with more complex needs may require one-on-one in-person instruction at home or in a community-based setting. In an in-person education setting, general education, special education, and ELL staff must collaborate to establish appropriate modifications so students can receive their education in the least restrictive environment. Parents of students of special education students should be contacted in order to establish communication regarding their ability to access remote learning and observations regarding their well-being. The guidance goes on to more fully describe what I've outlined with regard to the education requirements for students who receive special education if the school is in hybrid, in-person, or remote learning mode. It describes the continued need for physical distancing and safety protocols for students. The PAC has advised the school committee, pursuant to its legal obligation to do so, that it supports 6 feet of social distancing, the use of masks by everyone if possible, and frequent hand washing in addition to other cleaning and other protocols, all supported by the best available science on this novel virus. Thank you.
So thank you. I just want to make sure that I have the correct letter. This is what I see in the Dropbox. This is the one you're referring to?
Correct, July 9th, special education.
Perfect. I will make sure that everybody gets this. Thank you. Next public comment is from Rob.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. I am just going to reread the a letter that I sent to the school committee last week to just further emphasize my opinion regarding, regarding the reopening. The letter I wrote before says, to the Mount Greylock Regional School Committee, the planning for the reopening of the Mount Greylock Regional Schools is of utmost importance during the remaining months of the summer. It's clear that there are many concerns related to the safety and health of our students, faculty, and staff. It's also clear that while DESE has requested each school district to prepare plans for 3 different scenarios, those being fully in-person instruction, fully remote instruction, and a hybrid of the two, the idea that students will either be fully in-person or fully remote is unrealistic. The simple truth is that regardless of the degree to which we open instruction on campus, any member of the student body, faculty, or staff who shows any cold or flu-like symptoms will have to self-quarantine for up to 14 days. Anyone who is exposed to someone with COVID-19 will have to self-quarantine. Anyone who interacts with immunocompromised family members will have to self-quarantine. We should expect this. As the district continues with the planning for the next academic year, we must design an adaptable system that allows for flexibility among students, faculty, and staff to be remote on any given day. To design anything else would be unrealistic, irresponsible, and would fail to meet the educational needs of the families and students in the district. And to that end, I encourage the school committee to adopt a version of the high flex model to ensure that students, faculty, and staff can engage in meaningful instruction for the 2021 academic year, in addition to providing an effective way to educate our children while protecting the community. This model has the added benefit of responding to all 3 scenarios laid out by DESE. Thank you. And I should probably add as an introduction, which I should have added at the beginning, I'm a parent of a rising 7th grader, a rising 10th grader, and I am also a parent representative on the Mount Greylock High School, Middle School School Council. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Do you have documents on this that you could share with us?
I don't have them ready to share with you right now, but I could send them to you later today, perhaps.
Yeah, that would be terrific. And then if it's okay for us to post them, we can put them up so that anybody can look at them.
Sure, I understand.
Wonderful. Many thanks. And then our final comment is from Foster.
Hello, my name is Foster Goodrich. I'm the parent of James Hetherington, Eamon Hetherington, and Gavin Hetherington. So Eamon and Gavin are moving into 8th and 10th grade respectively, and James is graduating. My background is in large vertical construction, working for Gilbane Building Company, and then more recently with School Guard Glass. So in those 2 occupations, I had spent an awful lot of time with K through 12 across the country. As of recently, I am part of a team with AECOM, which is one of the world's largest engineering and design companies. And one of their particular focuses is water, wastewater globally. And the point to all of this is that there exists the ability to test for COVID in wastewater. Our state was not aware, to say they're not aware is inaccurate. In Boston, there was a company that started doing data sampling back in February. The technology became more prevalent over the last several months. They've tested backwards samples in Italy and found COVID in Italy as early as December. There was a piece on CNN this morning in Tucson, Arizona, regarding quote unquote poop being tested and showing extreme rise in the case of COVID. So the relevance to this is that the testing exists at the source point, but also in a water district. And since we are combined with North Adams, we have multiple institutions that are part of our district. We have the ability as a community to test at the wastewater treatment plant daily or weekly. And we also have the ability to test at a source point, which would mean anywhere where there's a manhole cover, and in this particular case at Mount Greylock or at Williamstown Elementary School System. I am also, so in that role, I understand quite a bit about just the technology particular to this one effort. And I wanted to make the subcommittee aware that there were other ways to test for COVID as a whole. It is a precursor to symptoms. So because you're testing in the parts per billion and everything is passed through your system, there is the ability to test, and there is data that shows that those test results show up 7 to 14 days ahead of symptoms. So if we are talking about fevers and other symptoms, the best way to test, quite frankly, is to test on a Monday and test on a Friday. I'm not advocating for testing every day, but if we were to test twice a week, I think it would be relevant. Greatest challenges, AECOM as a global company has had the ability to bring this across the country. They're doing a couple of test pilots, but the single greatest impediment to a national platform on this is funding. So the federal government is not supporting it currently. FEMA does not. There's a vague kind of a gray zone in which FEMA may or may not support it. And currently the state of Massachusetts, as well as other state municipal governments, do not support it because of the financial implications and the decline in tax revenue. So what does that mean on an annual basis? As a ballpark figure, if in Berkshire County there was only one testing source, it would be about $125,000 a year to test one source once a week. If there were, and there's economies of scale, so if there were 7, so if all the school districts and the jail and others in Berkshire County decided to sign on board, that test cost drops down to about $500 a test. And on, given a school year, obviously drops the price dramatically. I made our state senator aware in a call of this about 2.5 weeks ago, and have not followed up with Senator Hines. But at that time, he had not been hearing at the House of any discussion on testing for COVID in wastewater. So I'm trying to give relevant details for the school committee to carry this forward. I'm available for additional conversation and or to put you directly in touch with AECOM should it be of interest. City of North Adams, the mayor is aware, as is Williams College. And then the final piece I'll make as we look at trying to mitigate infection and control as much as possible. We have, more specifically at Mount Greylock, brand new mechanical systems. And those systems have the ability to be increased or decreased relevant to ventilation. And I'm interested in having the subcommittee and the superintendent look at what it would mean to increase ventilation to help support a cleaner educational environment, all with the hopes of getting as many students safely, as well as staff and faculty, back to school. So that's my piece. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And then normally we don't have a discussion right now during public comments, but thank you very much. And then we have one more public comment from Janine.
Thank you. So I speak to you as a Williamstown. I'm reading. I wrote this out beforehand. Usually I'm good at extempore speaking, but I'm a little nervous about this. So I speak to you as a Williamstown taxpayer, a parent of 3 Williamstown Elementary School and Mount Greylock graduates, a former member of the Mount Greylock School Council, a former member of the Mount Greylock faculty, and a former school board member, although that was in Vermont. So I say that to explain that my view on these remarks that I'm making is informed by many perspectives. I read a comment in an iBerkshire's article of July 13th that concerned me. The article involves 2 people with whom I am not personally acquainted, and it may well be that my concern is misplaced because I was not present when the quoted remarks were offered, and context matters. Nevertheless, I would like to offer my view on the remarks as those remarks were quoted in iBerkshire's. iBerkshire's describes the chair of the Parent Advisory Council as in disagreement with the petition being circulated and as in clear disagreement with the position taken by a member of the school committee. Let me say also that I have absolutely nothing to do with the petition, and that the first I had heard of the petition was when I read about it in the iBerkshire's article, and that I am inclined to disagree with the substance of the petition. I am, however, a firm believer in the United States Constitution and in the right to petition. The chair of the Parent Advisory Council is quoted as saying of this school committee member that she, the chair, had been told by members of the committee that this school committee member's voice is just one on a 7-person panel, but she said, quote, This is one voice too many. I wholeheartedly support civil public debate. This remark, however, seems intended to stifle debate. I am concerned and dismayed that anyone would seek to dismiss as superfluous a voice, rather than to engage in the substance of the ideas offered by the speaker or petitioner. Not only should we support the free and open exchange of ideas, but I would remind the chair of the Parent Advisory Council that the voice that she found to be, quote, one too many, and therefore gratuitous, is the voice of a duly elected member of a representative public board. Thank you.
So as I mentioned a moment ago, our policy is not to respond to the details of public comments. I just want to say I have put my email address in the chat group. If anybody does have information that they think is relevant to the district as we navigate these tough times, we have been trying to constantly encourage everyone to please reach out, to attend the meetings when possible, to watch them when recorded if not, and to bring forward to us any concerns, any information you have, so that we can make a rational decision to do the best we can for all of our students. So thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay, and again, if anybody does have something that they want to say during the meeting, please feel free to speak out. This goes to the point I was just trying to make, that we really want to have everyone involved. These decisions affect all of us in so many different ways. Everyone has their own area of expertise, and it's wonderful to have this many people available to discuss things. So our first or our next item of business is approval of minutes. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the minutes from June 23rd, 2020?
So moved.
A second.
Christina moves, Ally seconds. Any comments? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Carter, aye.
I'm going to abstain if I can, since I wasn't present.
That's fine. We still have, I will vote Miller, aye. So we still have 2 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. Moving on to item 4, reports from the working groups. And if anybody wants to project things, I can try to give you permission. If not, if you send me slides, I can project them from my computer. So Rob, do you have a list of the working groups, and do you want to run through this, or do you want me to? You're muted right now.
Actually, if you want to go through, I'll wait. Most of them are here to be able to answer questions.
Okay. So Joelle, would you like to go first? Is there a group that you're reporting from or no?
Sure, I can. We had a meeting this morning. I'm reporting from the instructional group. I was on vacation, so I didn't attend last week's meeting, but today we had a presentation by Jude Higdon-Topaz regarding the HighFlex model, the modified HighFlex model that had been shared with the superintendent from the parents working group. And we just listened to that and asked questions. We are committed to safety first, and trying to get as many students back to school as possible, and are preparing for 3 possible scenarios. Everybody's back in school with safely distanced, wearing masks, and some sort of a hybrid version, or if something happens and we have to be fully remote. We're working on all 3 of those options right now. We did appreciate very much the document shared with us from the parents working group regarding HighFlex. It does seem to live up to, there's no commitment to this at all. We were really just listening, but we did appreciate the flexibility that is offered by the model, and the seeming equity that would be provided in that kind of format, and in empowering families to make decisions about what's best for their students as well. And so that's where we are at the moment. And I don't, does the school committee have a copy of that document? I think you do.
No, and in fact, I reached out to some people from that group to ask if we could get a copy to post or if they wanted to present that here. But unfortunately, I haven't heard back yet, although it hasn't been that much time since the Thursday school committee meeting and now. So I will just reiterate, if anybody from the HighFlex working group wants to present at a future education subcommittee meeting, we'd be happy to have you. If you have documents you'd like to share, I think it would be very valuable for this group and the school committee to see these.
It was very helpful for our working group because we had done a lot of reading individually, and the proposed version is kind of a hybrid of the I guess there's no one model. So it was helpful to be able to have a presentation, to hear some thoughts, and I'd be happy to reach out to Jude to ask if he would come and speak to our next meeting.
That'd be terrific.
And I have to hop off to go to my next meeting, but thank you.
No problem. Have a good meeting. Okay, so let's go in order, and I apologize if I do anything twice. Governance.
Okay, that's basically the governance group is Christina and me. And to be honest, I have not moved. At this point, I'm still wrapping my mind around the district, trying to understand everything that's going on. So unless Christina has got some things that she had spoken with the previous superintendent, I'm somewhat, and unfortunately, Andrea is no longer with us. So I'm sort of I'm at a loss at the moment. Can you help out, Christina?
I do not have anything for this section, no.
I mean, I can add something, just if that's okay.
Please.
So I know the MASC has sent some guidelines, just reiterating and detailing the roles of all the different parties in these times, and this is something we are definitely aware of and definitely discussing. We have thrown a lot at you, Rob, in a very short time, and absolutely appreciate all the stuff going on, especially the presentation at the school committee last night. No, not last night, I guess last meeting, which would have been Thursday. Okay, so next is, did we do instruction? Was
that was Joelle's.
That was Joelle, right? So now we're on technology.
Now we actually have, is there someone here from that group, or I could actually speak to some of these things if there's not someone from the group?
I'm in that group.
I will, something, Pat, I'm going to defer to you.
So the only thing the technology group has done so far is put together a pretty robust survey, and that was just distributed today for faculty and paraprofessionals. How did it go, basically, and what do we need to do next? Obviously, it's a lot more detailed than that. So that has been delivered, and that information is being collected.
And if I might jump in, I think that technology is something that we've been working on diligently, because in my way of thinking about this, no matter what we do, all plans really are going to require a degree of familiarity with the technology for us to be able to move forward. Essentially, if we get all students, or if, as Rob mentioned, Rob Matthews had mentioned, is the reality of getting all students into school, or getting or having everything be remote. No matter what we do, I'm convinced that technology is the key for a number of reasons. One being the fact that we need to have something in place in the event that circumstances force us to close schools. And so I think that in remote, we've got to have that set up. We also have to have it set up in the event of a hybrid, because any hybrid of both in-person instructional and remote is only as good as the remote portion of that. And then the other part that I think is very important to consider is that even if we come into school, we are going to have to think about incorporating the technology into the work that we've got in the event that we're faced with a closure. So this is essentially, I'm completely confident that we could open tomorrow if all kids could go to school. I know that the teachers could do a great job, and they have, and they would continue to do a great job. The real issue right now is that if you describe this as that skill, which is not widely distributed across all of our faculty and of all of our principals, is that with technology. So to me, it's an important component, and we're doing things. We've actually we are trying to. I've lost Eileen Bella. Excuse me. Help me with the last name. Bellastock. We've just lost. Friday is her last day. She has been a tremendous asset to the community and to the district ever since she's been here. She's moving on to another assignment in another district, and they're lucky to get her. But so we are already posting to replace her position. And in the meantime, we're filling in stopgaps so that we are basically we're assigning people who have already played important roles in the Mount Greylock technology infrastructure to take on the roles that Eileen had previously held and be essentially a placeholder until we can get someone new on board to be able to do the same thing. I think that's does that sound right, Pat, what I was saying?
Yep.
Thank you.
And then we have, one of the benefits of a new building, I believe we have good technology in the middle high school classrooms for projecting. And so in all the academic classrooms at the middle high school, we do have that available.
Projectors, yeah. Yep.
Yes. So people could teach remotely if they needed to and project to students if needed.
And go ahead, Pat.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I mean, if you're talking about simulcasting, I'm not sure we have. Well, we have projectors, but that's different.
Yeah, Steve. Hi, Steve. This is Jake. Sorry, I'm
Jake.
trying to do two things at once. We have some of the hardware. I don't know if we have the software for that.
Okay.
So that's definitely a question we'd have to follow up on. It's nothing that we've ever done before.
But what I'm trying to get a sense of right now is what major technology requests might be coming in the pipeline. What can we do to serve all the different student needs? Is this something that's worth exploring?
Right now, go ahead, Jake.
Well, I was going to go into, I don't know how far we want to get into Canvas. And so right now we're looking at utilizing Canvas as a platform at the middle and high school, which has some features as far as being able to record and would be utilized both remotely or if students were in the building. So that's the area we're going now. I'm not sure if it has a simulcast type of capability, and that's a software that we already have. And so it's just basically using it as the system of record and getting everyone proficiently trained on it to include staff and students and parents.
Anything else from technology?
I'm actually just checking my notes, so if you could just bear with me one moment.
Sure.
Actually, because I actually have, I've collected all of the notes of the different groups, and in my technology reports, and again, this is we're in the process of transferring information from Eileen Bellastock to basically to more of a general sense of knowledge. Back in June, the main considerations had been devices. There was an inventory done, determining what was up. The platforms that Pat was just mentioning, actually that Jake was just mentioning, we were looking at things like Blackboard as a potential thing. But the key part is that students and staff are at the high school from grades 7 through 12 are familiar with Canvas. And although some of the elementary teachers would like to try Canvas, they have had more experience with Google Classroom. So we want to do is build on build on the experiences that teachers have, so that we're not trying to burden people with trying to master an entirely new thing that with which they're unfamiliar. And our plan right now is to ensure that we're providing professional development starting as soon as possible to get everybody up to speed on the use of devices and the use of software.
Thank you. And then it'll be interesting to see the results of your survey as to what technology do we need to get for the district? What do we already have? What kind of training do we need to make sure everybody comes proficient? Thank you very much for all the work on this. Next, I have facilities.
Tim, I'm going to defer to you until such.
So does anyone have any questions for this?
Do you want to talk a little bit about, I'll go to Bob. I'll defer to Bob.
Actually, let me just hop on. What's happened is that Tim has been very busy preparing the classrooms for the eventuality of welcoming students back to the classrooms. So Tim has been very busy essentially working through the ridding the classrooms of extraneous items so that we can maximize the amount of space, square footage in each classroom. And then recently, he was made aware of basically an online tool put out by the Canon group that basically gives you the opportunity to optimize classroom design based on instead of basically thinking about it as square foot, a hexagonal approach. And Tim has actually, and by the way, I just have to mention, Stephen mentioned this to me the very first time we met. He said, we talk about hexagon.
Every now and then it's nice to be a mathematician.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to be a mathematician. But the interesting part that happened is, and I'm going to describe, Tim had been working everything out using basically like squares. And then when he started using the hexagonal model, he found that he was able to add 2 seats. Am I right about there, about 2 seats, Tim?
Yeah, on average, yeah.
Yeah, about 2 on average. He could get 2 more with 6-foot distancing. But the difference, you know, in a typical classroom, people walk up and down aisles. And in a hexagonally designed classroom, you are moving diagonally. But Tim's actually, he's basically completed, you've completed Lanesboro, if I recall correctly, and are working right now on West.
Yes, yep. And again, I know a lot of you were on the last meeting, but the issue becomes desk size. So, you know, in Lanesboro, we have typical student desk size. It's very easy to work with. They have enough of them throughout the school to accommodate every student. But that's not the case at the Williamstown Elementary School or the high school. At Williamstown Elementary School, we know we can accommodate at least half of the classrooms with the typical desk size and hexagonal spacing, which really optimizes how many people we can get in the classroom. And then here at the high school, we have 5-foot desks. So every student has a 5-foot desk. And what it does is the students are still 6 feet apart, but the spacing between them, the aisle space shrinks a lot. And so, so we've got a couple alternatives that we've been working with. But that's where we're at right now as far as class sizing. But we know we can fit 16 students in a class and up to 23, depending on desk size.
I think this is an important part right now, just for those of you who are unaware. The Commissioner of Education, Commissioner Riley, has charged, basically he's prioritized getting kids back into the classroom. Those of you who are, I don't know if you're aware, but I must submit 3 plans on the 31st of July with a priority on getting all kids into the classroom. And he has, his expectation is that we are right now in the midst of a feasibility study in terms of how many kids we can actually fit in the schools. So that's what Tim and I are working on, and the principals are all working on right now. Is essentially the first thing. What can we actually fit then in the existing classrooms? Then to consider in terms of feasibility, what other spaces are available to us? What else could we potentially use as a classroom? And then basically move all these things around. It was interesting when you mentioned, is there anything technology that could potentially be part of a wish list of things? And it may be, there might be some simple technology like desks that we're still working through. And yet it's interesting, Patrick also brought up the idea of the different needs are different at different levels. Patrick had talked about preschool as being, essentially it's a challenge. Why don't you describe it? The challenge of getting kids to actually sit at the desk.
Well, anyone that's been a parent or worked with 3 or 4-year-olds knows how difficult it is to get them to socially distance under normal circumstances, never mind a COVID-19 experience. So we met, me, Tim, and the teacher and Kristen met over at West today to look at the classroom and see how many kiddos we could fit in there safely and still be able to provide a preschool programming, which is no easy task during this. So we looked at the hexagonal classrooms. Tim seemed to think that the desk would work, but the teacher brought up their concerns as far as getting the kids to actually sit in the desk, that they have better luck getting to sit at the tables. So it's all these little things that we're trying to work through to make this work. And there's factors that teachers in the classroom can bring up and mention that we need to consider when we're doing this.
And if I might interject here, that I want to tell you that just prior to this meeting, the entire administrative team met with the entire e-board of the MGEA, because my philosophy is that the only way we're going to make this work is if we work together as a team, and I feel that we've got an excellent team to work with, the administration team and the MGEA e-board, on addressing all of these different, basically addressing all the challenges that we're going to face with getting children back into school.
Thank you. In terms of desks, would it be possible, would we have extra desks in Lanesboro of a size that would be useful in Williamstown or Mount Greylock? Would it be possible to move desks around? We'll trade you, I don't know, some kind of, it might be interesting to see, can we move resources in the district? Can we take advantage of excess stock in one building and use in another?
Yeah, we will probably have some, but not nearly.
But not nearly enough.
Yeah.
Maybe 20, maybe.
Yeah.
Probably not even that many.
Okay.
If I might interject, this is something where I think about the classrooms, and of course, this is something I look forward to collaborating with my the superintendent team. We have a roundtable tomorrow of superintendents. And I think, Stephen, the point that you're bringing up is that there are desks and instructional objects that are sometimes languishing in rooms not being used. So I intend to reach out to neighboring superintendents to say, what do you got? And can we do some trades, some deals? Because the interesting part is over the past 15 years, the student population in Berkshire County has dropped by about 5,000 students. So there most likely is excess capacity in terms of classroom furniture.
Right. And maybe we have some extra audio visual stuff that we don't need from when we renovated the middle of high school.
True. Overhead projectors.
Exactly. Anything else from facilities? Okay, next is operations.
This one's, I'm the only person remaining from that team. Oh, and I wasn't there when it was formed.
I was going to say, you need at least 2 people so you can make a motion and have it seconded.
I'm the only man standing. Andrea's off at BCC, and but anyhow, well, I'm afraid we're going to have to move beyond that one at the moment.
Okay. And then one thing which we did mention at the last education subcommittee meeting is that if for any of these groups more people are needed, please let us know. In particular, school committee members are happy to volunteer to work on some of these committees, either formally or just informally, to attend and help out. Next is wellness.
That is me. Me and Ellie Cox from Williamstown work on this with a bunch of nurses, school psychologists, guidance counselors, a couple of doctors from Williamstown. And we've been focusing on two things. We've been focusing on mitigating the spread of infection and the mental health of students. We've met 3 or 4 times already. And things that we've covered is scheduled washing your hand times, soap in every classroom, when to use hand sanitizer, social stories about what's happening in the school, why we have to change the way we were doing school. We've talked about like how we're in entrance, how we're gonna eat lunch kind of. And lunch and entrance and getting your Chromebooks out of the car are still up in the air. And I think we need to touch base with the instruction committee on that as well. And then we've also talked about mental health, virtually and in the building. I think one thing that we're really thinking about is screeners for every student to see where they're at mentally, so we can really find students that are having a hard time adjusting to this new lifestyle and finding ways to treat, have conversations, and hopefully help them turn it around a bit. So, questions?
The last will be both for students who are in the building as well as students who are at home.
Absolutely.
Yep. Figured as much, as wanted to.
These are frozen.
Am I frozen?
You were.
Okay. And I went to a place with a good internet connection precisely to avoid that. Okay. Anything else from wellness? Do you anticipate any major technological expenses?
One thing that we started talking about today was an app or a texting service. So I'm sure you've heard about the questionnaire that people ask before they enter a store or a building. Have you had any symptoms? Have you had a temperature? Finding a way that we can disseminate and get information back from parents every morning. That's not a piece of paper, because paper is just not going to work. So we started discussing an app and a text service. And we just started that conversation today, so that might be a purchase for technology later on. But that's
Nolan, can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and setting up the summer program, that's something we had to do. And it's pretty easy because the limited number of kids we have in summer program, but that will become cumbersome when kids are entering the buildings if we're full, if they're fully coming in.
Especially for young kids that take the bus, right? They're not gonna be able to answer those questions without a parent's help. Yes, Rob.
I wanted to also bring out, I went to the Berkshire Innovation Center a little while ago. And I was talking with someone named Stephen something or other. And there are some solutions for, he basically had a couple of, he was willing to demonstrate something having to do with essentially a portal that allows you to take, to monitor student temperatures in a very uninvasive fashion. I don't know that if that's something that the committee would like me to pursue, but there's.
Well, that was actually what I was about to bring up. I had to see a doctor recently, and they had this new laser that they could shine at me and get my temperature while behind a plexiglass barrier. Quickly Googled online, and I saw some for on the order of $50, $60 for no-touch infrared thermometers.
So with the temperatures, Child's Art was in the meeting today, and she said they produce a lot of false positives and a lot of false negatives.
Okay.
I think it's more of something that we want to try to shy away from, taking student temperatures.
And that's one of the guidance that Desi gave us for summer programming, that screenings as they walk in by staff may be cumbersome, and you'll get a lot of false positives.
Well, I was thinking more for someone where you thought there were symptoms, and then even if there's a bunch of false, if you get a positive, then you do a regular thermometer for a follow-up.
If I might also say, I was very interested in, I don't know Foster's last name, but Foster,
Also
Rich?
good.
Yes, that was an interesting idea because one of the things that I've been trying to find out, I think it's valuable for us to have a sense of what is the data on transmission data in the county, within our town areas. I'm not sure how to get that information because, and yet Foster's suggestion, I thought, well, this is interesting. It might be, essentially, we're not necessarily going to get accurate information and data on the number of folks who are living in our towns, or for that matter, in Berkshire County, who have been tested positive. But this at least would allow us, Foster's suggestion, be interesting. It would allow us to not pinpoint, but at least we'd know. I would feel assured if I knew that there was no incidence of COVID that was discernible through our wastewater.
Right. And I've been talking with some statisticians about pooled testing, where you test, you have to use fewer tests, but people are in multiple batches.
Yeah.
It can be a way to more economically go through the whole population. And then if you get a positive in one of them, then you do follow-up tests on certain segments. And this allows you to more frequently and more often go through tests.
Okay, that was, after listening to Foster, I just thought, if everybody did it and it was only $500 at the whole county,
Right.
I'll bring it up with the superintendents tomorrow.
And so he sent the paper, which I've already passed on to you, and we will eventually post that on the district website.
Thank you.
Right. It has just started to downpour here. Right. Next is, we just did wellness as the parent community student. Anybody from that working group?
Jake can report on how he's handling the students if he's still available. Otherwise, I could mention it.
Hi, this is Jake. I'm still here. So I'm not on that committee, but we have started to finalize our plans to reach out to rising seventh grade students and their parents regarding their basic orientation, which isn't as basic as it used to be. But so we are initiating contact that way. And so that way, once information starts flowing out about reopening, they've already been contacted in a more pleasant and welcoming manner than just talking about precautions and COVID-19 related items. We are also considering what sort of trainings and support parents and students will need to be efficient on any platforms that we end up using. So that's also a planning consideration that we're going to have to follow up on.
Okay, thank you. And again, these are items that are going to be discussed numerous times in the weeks ahead. And so as we are discussing them, as we are looking at various things, our goal is to constantly be providing the public with summaries of what we are talking about and with invitations to come to the conversation, so that if we are missing something, please just point it out to us. I believe that is all the work. Did I miss something? Yes.
Steve, sorry, one more thing. So
yes,
we do have students that have been invited to be incorporated into all our working groups. And Mount Greylock, those are the district working groups you just mentioned. And Mount Greylock has also started a building-based group that consists of representatives that are in same position, that are in similar positions on the district groups. So we can do concurrent planning along with the district. So when the rubber meets the road, we are ready to implement, or better posed to implement any action items that comes out of the working groups. And there are parents on that as well from the PAC, from the school council, and the PTO.
thank you. I've actually had the pleasure with serving with our students on multiple groups and committees over the years and have always been extremely impressed with the work and the ideas they have put forward. Okay, anything else on the working groups? Before we move on to the next item, any comments from the public? Once, going twice. Okay. So the next item is discussion of back to school plans. So as Rob has mentioned, we are tasked with providing the state with multiple plans, and our objectives are the health of our students, their educational well-being, and coming up with plans that work for all of our students, recognizing that one size will not necessarily fit all. And then is there anything you would like to elaborate on at this point, Rob, or are we still in the preparing stage?
I'm basically really still working on the preparing. I would like to reiterate what I said earlier, because in essence, up until, and let me just tell you, Commissioner Riley's committed to having schools open for the start of school. So although we've got to come up with the 3 plans by the 31st, he's made it clear he wants in-person instruction with all students attending school, or a hybrid model of combination in person. But he's actually said he's going to require detailed explanations and perhaps send a team to review our work if we're unable to make this happen. So I think that's right now my major. Right now, I'm really just focused on the feasibility study, but simultaneously we're working on the ideas of what do we need to put in place to maintain, or basically to increase the skill of our entire faculty and administrators in the use of remote learning. And again, it's because I posit that remote learning must be the focal point for our reopening plan. Based on several things. First, high quality remote instruction is not a skill set found across the district, and it will require all of our energy to ensure that teachers acquire the skills. Second, we got to prepare to provide high quality remote learning in the event that infection rates rise in the community and require us to close school. And as I said before, a hybrid model will only be as good as the remote portion of the model if we find that we cannot bring students back to school safely. So those are sort of my operating ideas at the moment, and that's my best thoughts at the moment. I wish I had a more clear idea, but I'm going to, as I said, do a superintendent meeting tomorrow, which is the superintendent roundtable of all Berkshire County, and at that meeting we're going to be sharing plans, because as you probably have heard, the commissioner has recommended that districts share best practices and ideas across districts. And then on Thursday, there's a meeting of the commissioner and the heads, basically the working group of the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents, and I hope to get more direction there. The commissioner has said he's this week he is supposed to release templates for the development of the 3 plans, because as you can imagine, they don't want 350, and that's the number of districts in the Commonwealth. They want to be able to analyze these plans in some logical fashion. So they're giving us a template with which to present the 3 plans to the Department of Education. And as soon as I have that sort of guidance, I will be, of course, sharing with the Education Subcommittee and the School Committee at large. They also are going to be helping us think through what if-then scenarios in regards to basically thinking through the event of confirmed cases of COVID-19 appearing either in the community or in schools, and how sort of a logic model for thinking through the process.
Thank you. And then there's also work on surveys that's in progress?
Yes, indeed. That's a big thing that, as Pat mentioned earlier, the technology committee is working on finding out what parents and teachers need in terms of technology. Our step at this coming up next is we need to survey both staff and families to determine who's planning on attending school.
Right.
Because that's going, who's planning on it, who can attend, who can teach. And again, I'm very happy with my collaboration with the MGEA because they're helping me think and helping to find out certain circumstances among the faculty. And we're working, once we have a sense of the capacity, I wanted to have a sense of capacity first before we determine exactly how many, reach out to families to say what their thoughts are about attending.
Anything else on the discussion of back to school plans? And obviously this will be discussed in greater detail as we start finalizing. This is meant to just, give the public a sense of what's out there, what are we working on, who the working groups are, give you a sense of who the contact people are, and as always, provide you opportunities to share information with us. Yes.
And just as you were saying that your belief in transparency and putting all of these documents on the school committee site, my intent is to, on the district website, to have basically a regular update, weekly, if not more than weekly update on where we stand in terms of planning. As I said before, I need to submit this by the 31st, and I've also scheduled with the school committee a presentation for the 30th of July for last minute reactions before it gets submitted. So that, it's really not very far from today. And I wish I were much farther along on this whole process, but I'm not. And so I'm working diligently to try and make this, but at the same time, I'm trying to figure out a way to share our thinking about it.
And then I was going to say, this was leading naturally into the next agenda item, supplemental articles, that there's a lot of information out there and there's a lot to read, there's a lot to pass at various levels. And if anybody does have anything that is useful, several people have already sent some stuff and made some drop boxes available. We may eventually just transfer all of these articles to something on the district site, or just have the district site with direct links to all of these articles. But we do appreciate all these being sent in, and we will be making them available to anybody who wants to read them. If you are having trouble finding them, again, just please send me an email. All right. The next agenda item is other business not anticipated by the chair within 48 hours of the meeting. I do not have any unanticipated business. Does anybody else who is here have any relevant comments? All right, then it is time for the phrase, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, moved and seconded. Discussion, hearing none, roll call vote.
Carter, aye.
Conry, aye.
Miller, aye. So thank you, everyone, and then we will be in touch and we will inform you as to when the next education subcommittee meeting will be. Have a good day, everyone. Stay wet. No, sorry, stay dry, not wet.
Thank you for your
I'm going to be running home in the rain. Take care.
Thank you.